Welcome to the Down Dog Athletics Podcast, a competitor's guide to mental health and mastery. My name is Paul Clean. I've known sports and training my entire life, but it wasn't until I worked on my mind that I finally started achieving what I believed I was capable of. When I combined mindful and spiritual practices to my already competitive demeanor, I gained a new level of clarity in life and traded my career at Amazon to start Down Dog Athletics. In this podcast, I interview top athletes and coaches to uncover the mindsets of top performers. You'll hear from doctors, authors, and experts in the health space as they break down how to take your mental health, physical health, and performance to the next level. And last but not least, you'll hear from me in my experiences and how I'm cultivating growth for myself and my clients, both mentally and physically. Let's go. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Mindful Muscle Podcast, a competitor's guide to mental health and mastery. My name is Paul Klingen, and I am your host. I'm going to get right to it today. So from a training perspective, we're going to go into more of the nutrition lens, but I'm going to break down my 3P nutrition system to help you understand how you can apply protocols, and practices to really unlock the Rubik's Cube of nutrition so that it can fuel your goals and your performance. And then I'm going to give a tip that is actually a follow-up on the mindfulness tip that I had last week, which is kind of the other side of the coin. But before I do that, I want to talk to you guys about my 8-week challenge that I recently launched in the last week. And this is going to be an online program called the Mindful Muscle 8-Week Challenge. It's going to start on February 1st, and I'll just tell you what you're going to get right away. So first thing you're going to get is access to my Down Dog Athletics app. It's going to be the best programs that I use myself, that I use for in-person clients, that I use for online coaching clients, and you're going to have access to something that is dumbbell and band. You're going to have access to kettlebells. You're going to have access to body weight. And then if you have access to a full gym, there's going to be a plan for that. So you'll literally be able to say like, okay, here's the equipment that I have. Here's a plan and a program. And then I'll coach you on how to customize it to being a 5-day split, 4-day split, 3-day split, whatever it is that you want to do. Maybe you have a Peloton, maybe you like to run. How can you incorporate that with some yoga or something else? That's all going to be part of it from a program standpoint. So one of the cool things too with the app that you'll be able to access is that it's going to sync all of your progress in one place. So it connects to Fitbits, connects to Apple Watch, connects to MyFitnessPal. So you're able to go in and look and see your steps. You're able to go in and see your weight. You're able to go in and see your heart rate. Your progress photos are in there. Your performance is all in there. It's all in one dashboard so that you can see how things are going, and then I can also go in and see it as well. So really cool technology, literally in your hand, on your phone, on a single app. And then from a nutrition side, obviously I got you covered. We're going to have all 5 of my recipe books that include shopping lists, that include meal plans. It's over 200 different recipes. You'll have the high protein collection, the 5 ingredient or less collection, low carb, my New Year's recipe list, and a plant-based recipe list. So literally from a nutrition standpoint, boom, got you covered. Then there's the third part. There's the mindfulness part. So I'm going to have a mindfulness toolkit that I'll share with you guys, and that's actually going to be part of the challenge as well to see who can string together the most consecutive days of journaling or meditation. That'll be part of the challenge. It's all going to be housed within the Mindful Muscle support group. So I'll bring everyone together within a private Facebook group. We'll have private Zoom calls every week, and that's where I will do trainings, do live Q&As, and be able to help you customize your program, keep you accountable, and then obviously there's going to be a community of everyone going through the same challenge. We've got almost 20 people signed up right now, and we got another almost 2 weeks before we get going. So it's going to be a big crew. It's going to be fun. But like Billy May says, but wait, there's more. So I'm going to be including a few different prizes in the challenge as well, right? Wouldn't be a challenge without prizes. So we're going to have a Lululemon gift card, $250 value there. 3 months of coaching, $1,200 value there, so you can follow up this program with coaching, or you're going to have access to $150 in value in Down Dog Athletic swag. So we got hats, t-shirts, hoodies, journals, and I might even make a few more products just to make it a little bit more fun, maybe like a coffee mug, right? Super simple things, but it makes it fun, makes it challenging, and makes people a little bit more competitive and want to get it. And here's the thing too, you might win the prize, but if you win the prize, you got more out of it than just the prize, right? You saw some sort of physical transformation, mental transformation, a life transformation, even in 8 weeks is totally possible. And so lots of winning going to be going on with this. And then 4 other bonuses that I'll just be giving away and making sure that you have everything that you need to be successful. my functional flow 3-part series where I coach athletes through functional yoga flows to help increase mobility, flexibility, balance, body awareness. I'll also include the 3 guided meditations within that. Then I have my runner yoga sequence, which is a 7-part series that was instrumental in helping me run my sub 3-hour marathon. So it's going to take you through all the different body parts that get really tight, that get really weak for runners. And then on the at-home fitness side, maybe you are traveling, maybe you lose access to a gym for a little bit. You're going to have my Hit at Home series, so no gym, no problem. 20 different workouts, all 20 minutes long, but will give you a great burn, great sweat, hit at home. And then last 3, my core crushers. It's 3 30-minute core sequences, beginner, intermediate, advanced. It's for all levels, and it's a way to really level up your core training. So that's it. That's everything you get. And so for the price, I haven't even got to the price. The investment is going to be $247, one-time payment. If you're listening to this podcast now, I'm going to keep the insider early bird special of that $247 open until next Sunday evening, which is when it'll close. So that'll be, I believe, 1/24. So that'll be a week from this upcoming Sunday is when it'll close, and then it'll bump up to $347. So all that's to say, if you're listening to this podcast now, go to downdogathletics.com. You can check it out. You can sign up for that insider list. Even if you're not sure, just sign up in that email, and you'll be able to get kind of familiar with the program, and then that'll lock you into at that insider rate. So that's the 8-week challenge. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, paul@downdogathletics.com. You can shoot me a message on Instagram. I'll get back to you. I'd love to just have a conversation about it. All right, so now we're going to get into the nutrition hierarchy, where I'm going to break down my nutrition system and how I teach it to clients, how I'll be teaching it in the 8-week challenge. And I call it the 3P nutrition system. And the 3 Ps are going to stand for principles, protocols, and practice. And I create these lenses and these frameworks to help you understand why diets are successful, why diets are not successful, how you can implement practices and protocols to follow the principles, and how you can see results by not creating some sort of really rigid structure. And so from a principle standpoint, that is going to be rules about nutrition that don't change. That includes the fundamentals of calories in, calories out. There's going to be food quality and how important that is to make sure that you're getting all the different micronutrients that you need. There's going to be the benefits and the body's needs and how the body uses all the different macros that are making up the food that you're eating. So those are principles. Those are laws, those things that you can't just say, oh, I don't like that. Like, I'm going to change how this works. I think these are laws that you can't really get around. Then there's protocols. So these are strategies used to increase the adherence of the principles of nutrition. So just about every single diet that is out there is creating some sort of structure, some sort of protocol to adhere to these principles. So if you follow any kind of program that is designed to get you to lose weight, it's putting you in a calorie deficit, and it's restricting a lot of junk food so that it increases food quality. Where a lot of times they fall off is making sure that you're getting the macros ratios that you need, or at least understanding why you need them so that you can feel really good, so that you can do it for a really long time, and so that it's sustainable, and so that your performance is there. And then the last one is going to be practice. So it's just simply habits, little habits that you do every single day that make it so that those protocols are second nature. Kind of like if you're listening to the podcast with Brian, he talks about your mindless habits. If you can make those healthy and suited for your goals, then it makes that practice of eating high protein, of getting enough water, mindless, and you do it automatically. And so you create a lifestyle about it. And then all the changes that you have, that's when those changes become permanent, because those practices ladder up to protocols that ladder up to the principles of nutrition. So now I want to dive into specific principles and give you a little bit more background on that. So like I said, first one is going to be calories. So a lot of people get this wrong, but calories are a form of energy. That's not an actual like thing that you can pick up. I don't know. I used to think that it was like a little tiny bead where it's like, oh, look, a calorie. Calories are a form of energy. So the same way a car uses gasoline, our body uses calories to operate. And what a lot of people don't realize is that our brain uses calories, internal organs use calories, muscles use calories. Every time you're moving, walking, exercise, blinking, that's all energy that the body is using to fuel or fund those movements. So in order to manipulate the weight of a human, you either need to be in a calorie surplus or a calorie deficit for a sustained period of time. If you go into a calorie deficit for 2 days, you're not just going to drop a ton of weight. If you go into a calorie surplus for a couple of days, like Thanksgiving, you're not going to just put on a ton of weight. The body, from a metabolism standpoint, is going to want to stay in homeostasis. And so as soon as you bring it out of homeostasis, you got to do it for a long period of time. And then the body's going to adapt by putting on weight or pulling off weight. And so what you need to understand in order to kind of estimate where your calories are going to be at, you want to know what your resting metabolic rate is. And then you want to be able to say, like, okay, what is my NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis? What is my EAT, exercise activity thermogenesis? There's also the thermic effect of food, but that one's a little bit nuanced and not as relevant. So just think like walking exercise, actual fitness exercise, and then what your body burns at rest. When you put all those together, that's how many calories that your body is using throughout the day. So the same way a Ford F-350 would burn through 10 tanks of gas and then it would need to refuel, your body might burn through 2,400 calories, and then that's what you're fueling is from a food standpoint. You're fueling that 2,400 calories. If you do it over that 2,400, you eventually gain weight. If you do it under that 2,400, you'll eventually lose weight. However, there is some nuance to this as well. As your body adapts, your energy requirements also adapt. So think of this as you are a Ford F-250, and as you lose weight, you go from a Ford F-250 to a Ford F-150. Then you're a Ford Ranger. Then you're a sedan. Then you're a coupe. And those cars, as I was mentioning, become more and more fuel efficient because there's not as much mass, not as much requiring and asking for fuel. So same way, if you move up the ladder, the bigger cars are less fuel efficient. And so bigger people are going to burn through more calories because it takes more for their body to move and operate and be in that homeostasis. Now, that's all calories in, calories out. The other thing that a lot of people think is, okay, I got that, like I'm good. And this is where food quality comes in, because you can't just live in a calories in, calories out world, because 200 calories of a donut and 200 calories of a chicken breast, completely different. And that's because the donut's going to provide less nutrients in the form of vitamins and minerals for your cells, which on the other side, like an avocado, which is rich in potassium, vitamin C, vitamin B, is going to fuel your cells, going to fuel your body. And so if you look at calories as dollars, certain foods are going to give you a little bit more bang for your buck. A plate of cookies is going to be a lot less filling than a giant salad. It's going to give your body a lot less nutrients than salad. And I always say, like, this doesn't mean that you have to restrict and cut out, but you do got to be aware that when you're having foods that make it harder to adhere to that calorie deficit, that's where going on a diet and cutting out foods or having less basically trigger foods is going to make you more successful in your weight loss goals. And what's happening from a brain standpoint is when we have things high in salt, when we have things high in fat, in sugar, our brains get a hit of dopamine. And that's going to cause us to say, like, wow, I really like that. I want more. I want more. So then we go into this binge overeat mode. And then that's where we put ourselves in this calorie surplus. So we need to make sure that we're always having good food quality throughout the day, and then sprinkling in the foods that we like, the foods that we enjoy, right? Some people call it cheat meals. I don't like to call it cheat meals just because you're not cheating. It's not like you're looking at your neighbor's test and be like, oh, I had a donut. That kind of has like a connotation of being bad. So just think of it more as like refeed or enjoying life, really, is like a way to phrase it. But just know that, like, when you're in that 80, 20, 90, 10 of eating foods that grow in the earth, that had eyeballs at some point, then you're going to know that, like, all right, food quality is there. Fill it in with that 10% of the chocolate that you like, or the wine that you like, or the fill in the blank processed food that you like. So next, that's going to bring us to macros. And this is a way to think of this as like, all right, what is the food made of? So calories in, calories out is going to dictate how your weight is moving up or down on the scale. The food quality is going to dictate how easy it is to adhere to your goal of increasing food or decreasing food. And then the other one is, what is your body made of? Like, what is the body composition that you have? How is your performance? How is your cognitive function? A lot of that is going to be governed by the types of foods that you're having. So macros are short for macronutrients. Calories are going to consist of 3 types: proteins, fats, and carbs. Little side caveat: alcohol also is kind of a macro, you could say, because there's calories that you get from alcohol, but none of them are proteins, fats. Like beer or wine might have carbs in it, but just know that you can have 200 calories and not get any of the macros because it's alcohol calories. Anyway, side tangent over. Protein is going to be an essential nutrient. Like our bodies literally need it. It rebuilds muscle tissues after a workout. The more you have from a protein standpoint, the more muscle that you have, here's where it's important. Protein builds muscle tissue, and the more muscle tissue that you have, the more fat you're going to burn. So fat's going to be 4 times less active from a calorie burning standpoint than muscle. So you can look at a pound of muscle and a pound of fat. You're going to get a lot more out of that muscle in terms of burning calories. Protein's also going to be really satiating. So it's going to make you more full. It takes longer to digest. There's a wide range in terms of studies, and I don't want to just throw out blanket numbers, but anywhere from 0.7 to 1.3 grams of protein per pound of body weight is going to be a range where you want to be. Again, it's depending on your goals. You might be a little bit higher if you can handle that, and you're in a calorie deficit. You might be a little bit lower if you're just getting started out. But protein is going to be really important in helping you stay full in a diet. It's going to be really important in helping your body rebuild tissue that you break down from working out. It also helps fuel the building of your hair follicles, of your nails. Like it's literally something that we need and can't live without. Then we have carbohydrates. And carbohydrates can get demonized as like the bad food because pizza and pasta and all the foods that we overeat have carbs in them. But carbs are also incredibly important for any athlete, anyone that's training. Carbs are the primary fuel source when you're exercising, especially when you're using your alactic and your lactic energy system, right? So that's going to be a max effort squat or a sprint. And when you're training or you're exercising, like those are things that are happening. You need carbs for those. You also are going to use carbs for your aerobic energy system if you're going for a run, but the body can use other macros for that. But all that's to say, when we have more carbohydrates, we're also going to replenish muscle glycogen. So muscle glycogen is going to be pulled into the muscles and stored in the muscles for future performance as we're training, right? We're burning through that, and carbohydrates are going to help fuel that. And then after training session, it's really important to help replenish those muscle glycogen. Like a really good way to think of this, for an example, is after having a ton of carbs the night before, you're going to have a much better workout than if you just go in and you haven't eaten for 24 hours, right? And that's the whole concept of like having that big meal maybe before a big race day. Like you want to fuel up so that you have the muscle glycogen stores because those are going to deplenish after performance, and then you need to replenish them after. And then last but not least, fats. So good fats are going to help your hormones pass into your cells. Your brain is 60% fat, so in order for your brain to work properly, you need fats to help the brain communicate with the rest of your body. The little myelin sheaths that the neurons, I think, are inside. This is where my neurology or neurochemistry is a little bit off. But anyway, what they're made out of is lipids, fats. And so when we are low in that, it's going to affect our brain's ability to send and communicate with itself. And so fats are going to be incredibly important there. Obviously, like I said, good fat, so staying away from saturated or trans fats. But those are the 3 carbs, and you can't just rewrite the book on the role that these play. Sorry, not the 3 carbs, the 3 macros. You can't rewrite the books that these play. So when we look at principles from a nutrition standpoint, calories in, calories out, food quality, the role that macros play and how they benefit us in performance and everything else, like, this is what we need to understand and then create a lifestyle and a diet that adheres to these. So the next P in the 3P system is going to be protocols. So this is really diets at the end of the day. And I'd like to say that I'm diet agnostic in that I don't subscribe to any. I'm not like the paleo chef. I'm not pounding keto on the fist. I'm not saying if it fits your macros is the way to do it. Ultimately, you need to find something that is suited to your goals that you can do for a long period of time. And I'm kind of excited to be doing this podcast during this time of the year because everyone is doing Whole30 or everyone is doing some sort of paleo diet. Or not some sort of, they're doing the paleo diet or some sort of diet that's like really restrictive to get back on track. But then come February, can you keep up with it? No. Is it a diet if you can keep up with it, or are you going to sustain the results that you created in 1 month if you can't keep up with it? No. So all I'm getting to say is create a system, a protocol, a diet that you can follow. And within this is a little bit of nuance because you are going to periodize your nutrition when you are really smart and really strategic about it. You shouldn't just be dieting all year. There should be periods of maintenance. There should be periods of building. There should be periods of getting your hormones and sleep and biofeedback all set up. But that said, like, they should all be things that you can do and sustain and be structured is what I'm getting at. So that's really what protocols are. So a few examples of these would be meal timing. So intermittent fasting is a good example of a protocol where you say, all right, I'm going to eat from this time and I'm going to stop eating at this time. Like, there's some structure to that. From a meal timing standpoint, to help hit maybe like a protein goal that you have, you can create a protocol where at this time every morning I have this protein shake to help keep protein high throughout the day, because it starts me off with like a good number of grams of protein so that I'm not coming to the end of the day, I'm like, shoot, I got to get 150 grams. Like, that's not possible. So setting up specific times when you're eating things is a great protocol to adhere to the principle of the amount of protein maybe that you need to get. Making sure that you're getting carbs after a training session when insulin sensitivity is going to be highest is another protocol that you could follow, because when insulin sensitivity is high, it's able to pull in the carbs into the muscle and replenish the muscle glycogen, versus if you're having it at a different time, insulin sensitivity might not be as high. You might, from a meal timing standpoint, avoid eating, especially protein, right before bed, because that's going to affect your blood sugar levels, and that might keep you up, or you're going to wake up with a stomach ache because your body's digesting food. Then there's going to be protocols around food choice. So you could say, all right, every time I eat, I want to make sure that I have two of the three, or two of the, I don't know how many colors are on the rainbow, but I want to have two really colorful foods, so that you can take this approach of, all right, eat the rainbow every time I eat. You can take the approach or the protocol of kitchen, plate, table. So make a point to avoid eating out of a bag and just mindlessly sitting, eating without even looking at the food, and just take it out of the bag, put it on a plate, eat that plate at the table. That way you can create some more mindfulness around food. If you are trying to be in a calorie deficit, you can make a protocol around getting certain amounts of water, certain amounts of fiber, certain amounts of protein, having coffee. Those are all going to suppress your appetite. And those are all little structures, pieces of protocol, diets that you can follow to make the principles easier to adhere to. Another protocol that I really like is, if you know that you have some sort of event where calories are going to be high, maybe it's a wedding, maybe it's a birthday party, maybe you're going out with friends, apply a combination of protocols where maybe you intermittent fast in the morning, have a smaller lunch, and then leave 2,000 calories in the evening, so that you can fit in what you need to for that day or for your week. Maybe you rob Peter to pay Paul a little bit. So you have a really big calorie day, 3,000 calorie day, then the next day is 1,500, right? Just having some sort of plan and getting ahead of it and saying, all right, I know, and I'm planning on doing this. So on the front end, I'm going to reduce calories so that I can hit it. But the other one too is just being really consistent with your meal choices. And when you create some sort of structure and you create some sort of system around it, some sort of protocol, that's why we call it protocol, your mind and your body is going to just get in a routine. So your body's going to get really good at metabolizing your diet. Your mind is going to be really good at, like, okay, here's what I eat, when I eat it, here's what I go shopping for. There's not a lot of decision fatigue in what it is that you're eating, and so you're able to get into a routine. You're able to create some protocols and some structure, and then that makes it really easy. It doesn't make it easy, but when you have a lot of random inputs, you're going to get a lot of random outputs. And so creating a little bit of structure, having a protocol, having some sort of plan is going to make it much more likely that you're going to be able to follow something for a sustained period of time, make it subconscious, and so it just is like, this is my lifestyle. Which is actually a great segue into the last P, which is practices. And practices is just essentially the habits that you have that allow you to create the lifestyle that would be deemed as a healthy lifestyle, or a lifestyle that helps you reach the goals that you have from a fitness or aesthetic standpoint. And so one way I like to really frame this in terms of a mindset to have around everything that I'm talking about is, if I gave you $1,000 and you put that $1,000 in your pocket and $100 falls out, you wouldn't just throw the other 900 away, right? You'd be like, oh shoot, I lost that $100, but I'm going to take the other 900, put it in the bank, or I'm going to go buy something. And so what a lot of people do from a nutrition standpoint is, they have a bad day, they have a bad meal. They have a bad weekend. They have a bad week, and they're like, diet's off. I better just quit and stop. And then a month passes, 2 months passes, a year passes, and all of a sudden they've thrown away a ton of time just because 1 or 2 days or even a week got them off track, right? Just because you lose $100 doesn't mean you throw the other 900 away. So everything that we're talking about is like a mindset around food, and it's just saying like, all right, I'm trying to create a habit. I will fail at the beginning, but rather than losing hope or losing confidence or belief that it'll work, I'm just going to get back onto it. I'm just going to practice it every single day until it becomes a habit. So 5 habits that I think really help ladder up into finding protocols and structures that work for you that adhere to the principles and laws of nutrition is 1, checking food labels at the store, just being aware of what it is that you're buying and putting into your body and knowing, okay, there's this many calories per serving. There's 20 servings in this. I probably shouldn't eat the whole bag in one sitting unless, I got the calories for it. Eating slowly and allowing your stomach to actually communicate with your brain and saying, all right, cool, we're full. This can take up to 10 minutes, but allow yourself to eat, be mindful, be like, all right, am I actually hungry or am I bored? Is often a question I'll ask myself, and then I realize, like, all right, I'm bored, I have some water, boom, I'm not hungry anymore. And to that point, drinking more water and just avoiding unneeded calories in drinks. So you can have water if you're thirsty, or you can have orange juice if you're thirsty. Orange juice can have 200 calories or 100 calories, whatever, how many calories in it, or you can have water and you still quench that thirst. But that's like another practice to have, is saying, all right, I'm going to just drink more water. I'm going to make sure that I'm hydrated. I'm going to make sure that I'm drinking water instead of thinking, oh, I'm hungry. But like I was saying, in actuality, you're actually just bored. The 4th one would be reflecting on the energy you had throughout the day. So if you have a really bad workout, say, all right, what did I have before that might have led up to that? If you slept really poorly, think, all right, what did I have the day before that might have led up to it? If you had a really good workout, if you slept really well, if you're feeling really good, look back and be like, oh, wow, like I was making these decisions from a nutritional standpoint. Maybe this is part of why I'm feeling so good. I'm fueling my body in a way that is boosting performance. And then the last thing I would say is, rather than thinking of junk food as a reward, find some other way to reward yourself. So I've got some clients right now where I'm like, hey, if you can do this thing that we're working on for the next 2 weeks, go buy yourself something. Like, go do like a little shopping spree. Go give yourself a massage. And rather than saying like, all right, I'm stressed, I'm going to cope with food, say, all right, I'm stressed, I'm going to cope with a walk. Or, oh, I accomplished my 30 days of my diet, I'm going to reward myself with something that isn't completely throwing it off track and then losing that momentum that you had. Right? And these are all like simple things that are sometimes hard to implement, but once you do them and once you get in the habit of them, it makes it so much easier to follow, again, up the ladder, the protocols that you're creating to adhere to the principles from a nutrition standpoint to reach the goals that you have. All right, so that was a little bit longer of a training tip, really a nutrition tip, but now I want to dive into the mindfulness tip. And it's actually a lesson that I learned literally over this last week, and I find it kind of funny because last week I was going a million miles an hour. When I recorded this podcast 7 or 8 days ago, I was on a mission. And so where I was at in my frame was, all right, I know exactly what I need to do. I have a ton of clarity that I've created through spending a lot of time in reflection, in visualization, working with coaches, meditating, journaling, like 2020 reflection, 2021, like here we are, lasered in and focused. And what I said was, hey, like you don't have to always be like, all right, let me slow down and make sure that I take time to meditate, take time to journal when I know what I need to do, like go, 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 go. And this is where there's the other side of the coin, right? Or the other end of the spectrum. And so I always like to say, like, all advice is good, all advice is bad. You got to understand where you're at on the teeter-totter so that you can know, like, all right, I need to push a little bit more into the slowing down side. Or man, I've been just spinning in my wheels and just reflecting, like, I need to actually go and take action and do something. And so I got too far over onto the action side. I recorded this podcast, like I said, last week, and Sunday, so a week ago, I spent 11 hours building something for my business on my computer, and I was just like, boom, like going a million miles an hour. And then it affected my sleep because I, worked up till 11, had to wake up clients 5 a.m. the next day. And so then like sleep was trash. And then the next day I was super stressed, canceled all my meetings, had to get this thing out. Boom, canceled my meetings, super stressed all day, worked through, got it done. But then Tuesday I crashed and I had to cancel my training. I had to take a nap. And on Monday, I was talking with my girlfriend, Haley, and she was like, holy cow, like, you are so stressed. I've never seen you this stressed. And I told her, I was like, I haven't been this stressed in a long time, maybe my entire life. And it was something that I created because I didn't take time. One, because like I had to get this thing done, but I also didn't take time to slow down. And some of my advice last week, again, good advice, bad advice, depends on where you are. That's kind of like on your awareness to understand where you're at. But for me, I got away from slowing down, which is what I needed at that time. And so really the lesson and the mindfulness tip and my lesson for you guys is don't stop doing the things that make you successful just because you got something else to do. So if you have a routine and you're able to say like, okay, like things are going really good, I can let things slide. Don't let them slide. Always stay committed and stay consistent with the things that create that momentum, create that clarity, and don't push you beyond that threshold, which I got to, because I'll be honest, I thought I was crushing, and I had to get these things done. I'm like, all right, I don't have time to take 20 minutes to meditate and journal. I'll do it later. And so for about 6 or 7 days, I didn't do any of that. And the days after, so I took that nap Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I made that a priority, slowed down, and got back to that homeostasis, got back to that base, got back to feeling so much better. And so just to kind of recap, because I'm kind of spinning wheels, but what I would say is don't give up the things that got you to where you are today. If you have a journal, go back and look and say like, man, when I was crushing it, what was I doing during these days? If you have a habit and you have a routine, just because things are good, don't get rid of it thinking that like, oh, you're better than that now. You see it all the time, maybe in business or in athletes, right? They'll do all the hard work that got them there, and then they think that they've made it, and then they stop doing it, and then they're like, oh, why did everything fall apart? Well, it's like, well, you didn't continue to do the things that got you to a really good spot. You got to stick with it, and that's my lesson. That's something that I'm going to make sure that I apply, even if I hit those times where like, man, I got to crank this 12-hour day out. Always take time to slow down. In reality, everything's going to work like a bow. So you imagine that 1, 2 feet, however many feet that you're pulling back, you got to pull back to go forward. And even if it's just a little bit, that little bit of slowing down is going to allow you to propel and go forward with so much more force, so much more focus. And so that's the lesson today is take the time to slow down, even if you think you don't need it, because you actually do. Hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. If you haven't yet, be sure and subscribe. Every Monday, I drop the Mindful Muscle podcast. Every Thursday, I interview someone. We got 2 more episodes of the Your Transformation Blueprint series. We had Carson, we had Brian, and they talked about their weight loss journey and everything that they've done over the last 12, 18 months. So keep an eye on that for on Thursday. And then if you could, leave a 5-star rating and review for the podcast. If you get something out of the podcast, share it with a friend. I'd really appreciate that. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys next time on Thursday for the Mindful Muscle podcast. Have an awesome week.